That was liftoff of Boeing's Starliner back in June, Boeing's first astronaut flight to the International Space Station on what was supposed to be an 8-day mission. Well, now they may be there for 10 or 11 months. It ended up leaving 2 NASA astronauts stranded in space, and now this week NASA announcing they will be there even longer, another delay. Astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore's homecoming now expected back on Earth no earlier than March or even April of next year because of a delay in launching their replacements. NASA prefers to have overlapping crews at the ISS for a smoother transition, and a fresh crew was supposed to launch in February, allowing this pair to come home. But SpaceX needs more time to prep a brand new capsule for the journey. Joining us now to weigh in is former NASA astronaut Cady Coleman. She is also the author of a new book, Sharing Space, an astronaut's guide to mission, wonder, and making change. Cady, really appreciate you coming on tonight and want to get your perspective here, because these astronauts launched with the understanding this would be an 8-day mission, and now this optimistic estimate puts them at 300 days at the end of March. What do you think is going through their minds of these 2 astronauts in space?
Well, I can't speak for them, but I would imagine for many of us, it's true that we're trying to balance, basically the belief we have in the mission that we're a part of. And at the same time, you do leave people behind at home and how this impacts them. I think that if you asked Butch and Suni after they got home what this time meant to them, was it all about regret and if only I'd been on Earth? I can actually guarantee you that it's not about that. It's about what they accomplish up there. And actually, if you look at, I Googled who's in space right now. I always like to know who's up there. And there are 10 people in space. Butch and Suni are 2 of them. And if you look at the number of days that many of them have been up there, not consecutively, but it's hundreds. Several on the 10 people in space right now have been in space for 300 or 400 days, meaning, almost a year or more than a year, and still counting. So in other words, as Butch likes to put it, I've heard him say, we're trained to be prepared for wherever we are. That's where we start from. And if we start from stuck, well, we start from stuck.
Yeah, I believe the record is Frank Rubio at 371 days. Still, it was only supposed to be an 8-day mission, and they even said at the outset, we like that this is a short turnaround, a quick mission. We'll make our contribution and be home. Are there any health consequences for them the longer they stay in space?
It's one of the things that we're studying up there. In fact, every one of us, retired or not, comes back to NASA almost every year and gets a physical to understand. One of the things that we study up there is osteoporosis, which is something very much affects people down here on Earth as well. The bad news is that up in space, it can actually happen quite quickly to us. And the good news is that we've learned a lot about countermeasures that help us counteract that in space. So, it's definitely a health risk, but part of what our service is to help understand those risks so that when we send people back to the moon to stay and on to Mars, we understand more about those things. And it's actually very satisfying to me that it helps us here on Earth as well with everybody else's health.
Yeah, that's a wonderful contribution. We hear NASA saying that, we prefer to have overlapping crews here. We could have considered a different capsule, but we're choosing to wait for the SpaceX capsule. At what point do you think NASA should just bring this pair home?
I wouldn't think that we're even there yet. And, you mentioned Frank Rubio's trip of 371 days. But then people like Frank actually come back and do even more, another flight. So, the number of days up there, these people, Suni and Butch, we've been looking at video of both of them. As Suni's husband says, this is really Suni's happy place. And even though I would say the advantage, I just don't think that Suni and Butch, I know their families will miss them, and it's a very much a family sacrifice as well. And at the same time, a few more weeks or even months means a lot in terms of the crews getting to be together on the space station and say, okay, this is how this really works. I think it's like handover in every single job. There's what's on paper and what you're supposed to know and how it's supposed to happen. Then there's the real thing.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.